Features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion.
And it is a misty morning again in the African bushveld. We can see some beautiful silhouettes as we wait for the sun to rise. This is Safari Live.
Ready.
Standing by.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Safari Live. My name is Byron, and on camera with me this morning is Craig. I hope you've all had a lovely morning, lovely start to the day. It is quite exciting that we are out again looking for animals. Now, James will be in the tent this morning, and then Tayla is going to be on bushwalk, and then we've got the ladies in final control, Alice and Megan this morning. And a very good morning to all of you. As I said, don't forget, everyone, we are completely live, so send us your questions and your comments. Hashtag Safari Live is how you do so if you've just joined us, and we'll happily answer some of your questions, or all your questions, hopefully, between the three of us. I'm sure we will. But look at this mist this morning. Very misty. You can actually see the spotlight beam through the mist. Oh, look at that. It's actually very nice. It's lovely. So I've been trying to listen to hear if we have any sign of predators this morning. I haven't heard anything yet, but we're going to drive around. I'm going to try to check very carefully for potential tracks. And like what I'm going to be doing now is exactly that, just having a look along the road to see if anything has walked here recently. I don't see anything along this particular section of road. It's a very misty morning. Wow. And we'll see what we can find. Yesterday was quite an exciting day. We had, yesterday morning, we had reports of wild dogs coming through the area, and a few of us drove around frantically trying to find them, but we didn't have any luck, unfortunately. But that's the way it goes. And then no cats yesterday, unfortunately. But we did have one or two elephant. We had some buffalo around. And the exciting thing at the moment, for those of you who have just joined and have missed the last few days, our Mara feed is kind of up at the moment. It is still some teething issues that we're working through, but Brent has given us some amazing sightings already in the Mara. So there's a lot going on there, which is very exciting and wonderful to have that additional feed at the moment. So we crossed from South Africa all the way to East Africa to go and see what Brent is seeing in the Masai Mara. And I find that incredible. I can barely see in all this mist. Very ominous morning. I love it. This is wonderful. And then, as I mentioned just in the pre-show drive, it's my last drive for over a month. I'm going to be away. So I have really enjoyed it the last 2 weeks or so. But yes, I'm going to be away for quite some time. And good luck to all the team members heading up to the Mara soon. I'm going to miss it while they all head up there, so good luck to all of them. I'm sure it's going to be very exciting, and good luck to Tristan and Tayla, who will be here at Djuma. They're still going to be continuing the show here, and then I'll see them later in June. I think it's going to be very exciting. Now, my dear friend James HENDRY is in his palace or rather tent.
Palace is quite a strong term. I've just retrieved a spider. So good morning everybody. I wasn't supposed to be in the tent today. I'm slightly disappointed to be in the tent today. I was hoping to be out on drive. Unfortunately our vehicles are in a state, well, that only a Land Rover can be really. So what we are as live as we will, as the other vehicle and walk will be, that's right. My name is James Hendry again. Oh dear, there's no strap at all. There it is. Good. Okay. And so you can talk to us. Hashtag Safari Live is how you'll do that during the course of today. The spider is being a little bit irksome. Let's see if we can't grab him and put him under the microscope. What he's been trying to do is escape, poor thing. And I will return him to his wilderness hidey hole. There we go. Now come and sit over here. That's it. He's just a little bit nervous. Come on. Just sit over there. There you are. Don't go crawling now. You've been immobile for some time. Right, let's see. What does he look like? Look at it. Looks like little nostrils there flaring with anger. Isn't he amazing? Now, this is a crab spider of some sort, I think. And I'll show you the flower that he has disguised himself like. Or as. That is just beautiful. Right, so sorry, a slightly frenetic start this morning. Senzo is on camera today. He is in the tent with us today. Tayla will be out on walk very shortly as soon as there's sufficient light. And then I will be here, of course, in the tent for the next 3 hours. Well, I might go down to the garages and burn Rusty and Jigger while, during the sort of breaks when I'm not on there, because the two of them are not deserving of our respect or, indeed, of our attention. Good. Now, this is the plant that it came off. Oh, the last bloom of the wild jasmine. Is it not amazing? Well, I don't suppose that is an amazing picture, really. It's a sort of whitish flower. But we'll see what it looks like under the microscope, and I'll show you why the spider is so important, or why the spider is interesting, because if we can try and get them together, I'll see if I can get them together under here. You can see that the colour is roughly the same, and you can see how easily the little spider would slot. There you go, there's the spider. You'll see how easily it would slot into that flower, where it will lie in wait for probably ants and other ants and probably flies and other insects to come along, try and get to the nectary of the flower, and they'll be devoured by the crab spider, which I think is rather interesting. There you are. You can go back to your little flower now. How cool is this? Let me just try and get them slightly better. There we are. Go into your little flower, and then I'm going to put you back exactly where you came from. There are his angry little flaring nostrils. Well, those are probably eyes. In fact, they're definitely eyes. He's got 2 eyes on the top of his head and 2 eyes on the front of his head. Isn't he just gorgeous? He looks like he's been very specially camouflaged by some intrepid painter. And of course that intrepid painter is evolution to most of us. Right, let me put him back. Alrighty, I'm going to try and put this chap back outside. Alrighty. Sorry. Alright, while I do this, let's head across to Byron. He is driving through the mist, and this spider is not wanting to be wrangled, so let's head across to Byron.
Right, well, I'm driving around now. Have a look at this. This looks like some fresh elephant activity over here. Just look at this tree next to me. So an elephant has obviously pushed this over. So I'm just listening just to hear if I can't hear any elephants around. But this was definitely pushed over, I think, during the course of the night. Now, just have a look again at all this mist around us. Very misty morning. Trying to listen to see if I can't hear any signs of animals just yet. Now, I get very excited if I hear any alarm calls. Now, I can hear a Franklin alarm call in that direction, quite deep into the bush, but it's so difficult. And I must be honest, I've seen Franklins and heard that alarm call many times where they alarm calling at a leopard walking through an area. So why don't we just have a careful look around here? You never know. Fred from Arizona, you asked if the phases of the moon have any effect on the animals. I don't think so. I think what happens is, if anything, the bright moon, and it was a very bright moon last night, we're approaching full moon in the next day or two. I think all that would happen is the predators might not be as successful when it comes to hunting, because it is so much brighter, so a lot of the animals would be able to see them and pick up on them a lot sooner. But in terms of actual behavior, I don't think so. I don't think it really affects them, not that I have seen. You might just get a bit more activity from animals that are not nocturnal, probably moving around a lot more because it is so much brighter and they can see. I think let's head back into this area where I heard those Franklin alarm calls. Let's just take a chance and go and have a look. But while I do that, Tayla is going to brave the misty morning, and she's going to be on bushwalk now.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to, of course, well, a very misty morning, as Byron has been describing it. My name is Tayla, and on camera with me today is Sebastian, you guessed it, and of course Herbie is out keeping us nice and safe. Now, I'm not sure what alarm calls Byron is talking about, but Sebastian gave me some interesting information and has said that he heard a leopard soaring last night, so that's good news. Now, of course, we haven't got any tracks to go with that soaring leopard just yet, so I can't even begin to tell you who it was, and I'm not going to try until we find some tracks and figure out whose territory this leopard is particularly in. So we're going to go towards Philemon's Dip and then go towards a cut line, and hopefully from there we'll start to pick up some tracks. It's a little bit dark still, it's not the easiest light just yet to see tracks. Maybe another 10 or 15 minutes once the sun pushes up above the horizon, and then, well, that beautiful golden light will illuminate the floor, and that'll be perfect for us. Excuse me, sorry. I'm going to have many tickles in my throat today, I can see. I think I was talking too much yesterday, which is unusual. Now, Seth, you were wondering, how do we force ourselves to get up so early? I think that was the question. It's pretty easy. I don't know, I don't even have to try and wake up anymore. Now the times are really easy because we're getting up a little bit later. Summer's tough when you're waking up before 4 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, 6 weeks in a row, by the end of it, you're normally quite tired, but that's the life of a guide, I suppose. We get 2 weeks off after that to relax and recoup, so it's not too bad. If you really want, you could probably have a nap during the day if you're feeling specifically exhausted. But it's okay. Now, I wake up before my alarm even goes off. James is up at about, I don't know, 3 hours before everybody else, well, along with Curse. And I think we've had these chats before. Some of us get up at the last minute, quickly get dressed, and that's fine. As long as you're on work on time, you can do anything that you like. But it's always very rewarding knowing that you're going to wake up and be able to listen to all the birds calling in the distance and see the most magnificent sunrise. And that's pretty good motivation to start your day. I can promise you that. Than going to sit in traffic for an hour, get angry because you're late now and you weren't late. So it's much easier. And now, Christina, you said that you bet that the air smells so nice, and of course with all the different smells, it does indeed smell beautiful out here. Should we take a deep breath? It's fresh, no freshly cut grass this morning. I can just hear a wildebeest. I'm surprised I can't smell it because they're quite stinky too. Where are you that you're snorting at me? I think it's standing behind a tree somewhere. Ah, there he is. Is that him? Yes. There he is. Here they are. Hi, guys. So yes, it does smell quite nice out here. They're nervous. What's wrong? They're running away from me, which is unusual. I don't normally get that reaction from the wildebeest. Perhaps it's a little bit too early for them to. Maybe they don't like the smell of us, and that's why they're reacting with the way that they do. But I don't think that they can smell us just yet. I think they could hear my loud booming voice, and that's what has alerted them to our presence. And I don't think we'll go any closer today, just because they're already snorting at us and a couple of those little ones have started running, and I don't want to startle them. We're going to keep searching. We're going to head in the direction of where that leopard was soaring. James is not in his palace, he's in the tent, and I don't know what he's got for you next.
I have got Senzo's greatest friend. Senzo, is this your best friend? Senzo made intimate acquaintance with the innards of this animal earlier this year when he was laid low by tick bite fever. Now, I was just climbing up to the top of this grass stalk in order that it might jump onto him and repeat its performance from earlier in the year. Let's look at him under the microscope. Responsible, of course, for an enormous amount of disease. There he is. Naturally, he's now going to decide that he can walk on the ground, just as we get him under the microscope. There we are. He's got a bit of dew on him. Him or her, difficult to say. I don't find a great deal of attractiveness in male or female ticks. Yes, you get pinned down there, you beastly thing. We will unfortunately release him as well. I've got to tell you that I would feel very little ending this thing's life. A short time on planet Earth, it would make me not feel particularly bad. I feel bad about the death of wasps and moths and grasshoppers and bees and flies. Not so much flies. Ticks? No. I have had too many times tick bite fever and the effects of tick bite fever. There we go. But fear not, I will release it. I know that I should. I know that it is a valuable part of the ecosystem and therefore must be looked after just the same as the leopards and the lions. Doesn't like the microscope much, does it? Anyway, that is the tick. And it doesn't appear to want to be under the microscope any longer. Best friend of Senzo. Okay, let's head across now, I think, to the dam cam, because there are some impala there, and a fork-tailed drongo. Can we do that? There we are. Good, we're on the dam cam. There are some impala and a little fork-tailed drongo and a very peaceful dawn scene going on there. They are to the left, I think, of the dam. That's right, they're just behind the dam and enjoying the sort of moisture that is on the grasses. Otherwise, I think those sort of long stalks that they'd be eating would be fairly unnutritious. And with any luck, that leopard that was sawing around there will arrive. It has been a dreadfully cat-quiet time of late on these drives, and let me assure you that is not due to any lack of effort on our part. We have been scouring the landscape and looking for tracks, following tracks. We just haven't had much luck in the last little while. Anyway, hopefully today will be different. Every day is slightly different out here. And of course the next time we do see either one of the royal family or another cat of some description, of course it will make it that much more special. Impala, however, looked chilled to the max. They don't look in the slightest bit alarmed by the morning. They are clearly quite comfortable that nothing spotted or toothed or clawed is about to leap out from behind a bush and grab them. Wonderful shot there of the fork-tailed drongo. Well done, Djuma. You're doing a fantastic job, whoever you are, at this time of the morning. Brilliant stuff. Okay, well, that's all we got for you this time round. So let's head across to Byron, because I believe that he has got our first high-profile game sighting of the morning.
Oh dear. Now, this elephant was actually sleeping on the termite mound, everyone. He just stood up. I'm going to try and get a better view of it. Hold on, I think maybe from this side. But he was fast asleep. I just saw him lying up against the termite mound. Lying down, resting. That's awesome. Let's see, it looks like quite a big male. Which way is it going to go for us? There, might get a view through there. How's that, Craig? Is that okay? There he is. Beautiful elephant in the mist. And as I said, yeah, it was fast asleep against the termite mound, resting. Now they're still always aware of what's going on around him, but they're clever. These big bulls will go and lie down against a termite mound because then it's easier for them to stand up, not completely flat on the ground. Oh, that was awesome. We just missed it. We sat with him for 2 minutes before he decided to wake up and start moving around. You can see he's starting to feed already. And we know the elephants consume a lot of food. So already starting to eat. He still looks half asleep, doesn't he? Like that. But look at the dust on his ears where his head was resting against the termite mound. All that sand on there. Look at that. That's wonderful. Donald, you asked, is the mist holding in the air? Or is the ground saturated? Is that what you said, Alice? Is the mist holding in the air? Let's just see with it. So Donald, what happens is, the mist, because of these cool mornings, now there are a lot of little drainage lines and valleys in this area, so the cold air pushes the moisture down because it's heavier, so that causes the mist to settle in these areas in the mornings, in the early mornings. There's a lot of moisture around, so that's what causes that mist to settle down. As the day starts warming up, the air starts heating and rising, and then all that mist disappears as the morning starts warming up. So it's just the cold air which is holding it down at the moment. But what it does cause is you'll get a lot of dew and moisture on the grass. So you will see a lot of moisture on the grass at the moment, and that's just from all this mist being pushed down. Alright, now Tayla's still out walking, and it sounds like she's found something small to show you.
Not just one small little thing. We've actually gone from, well, the biggest animal, the land mammal in the world, to one of the smallest little animals in the world. And of course, those are little red ants. Now, I'm not sure which ants they are. There are over 550 species of ants in southern Africa alone. So they might be little safari ants. I know we used to call them safari ants, and they'd come through our kitchen and clean up all of the debris. But there's something else in the shot that is trying to clean up the ants, and that's of course a little pirate fly who is now cleaning itself. Now they're hilarious, these little guys. You see them around termite mounds, and of course, as we can see now, you see them around the ant colonies too, and they will snatch up little flies at any opportunity that they can get. But look at this network, this little ant pathway that they have created. It is absolutely spectacular. There must be hundreds, maybe even thousands of these little red ants moving about the day. Look at that. That's all of them. Now, in that little groove in the ground that you can see there, those are ants. Look at them. There's so many of them, and they're tiny. And I don't know where they're coming from, where they're going, or what they're eating. Normally when they go out like this, it's perhaps because they found something that they can eat. Now, ants eat a lot of different things. Some of them are just vegetarians or feed on plant matter, nectar, seeds. And then you get others that will feed on other ants, so termites, spiders, cockroaches, any of the insects really. I think these guys do a combination of both. But I would love to go and eventually follow this trail and see if it leads us back to, well, where they go underground, where their little mound is. Now, ants don't build, well, the ants that we get down here don't build massive mounds like we see with the large fungus-growing termites. Most of them are built underneath the ground. But these guys are on a move and they are working very hard. I think it's amazing how they don't crash into each other because they're moving at quite a speed. And I think that they've got better driving skills than most of the South Africans. That's really cool. Now, John B., you've said that look at the line that they are forming, and it's massive. I'm actually going to go, while you stay here, I'm going to walk a little bit further away, and I'm going to show you how far it is. I'm going to find out where they are going. Okay, so I've got to here so far. So just look from where we are, we're this distance apart. I think Sebastian and I must be about 12 feet away from each other, maybe even a little bit more. And I suspect that their nest is somewhere here. It sort of goes along, just along here. There aren't as many ants. There seems to be a roadblock up ahead. Perhaps there was an accident of some sort. The traffic has slowed down. And it weaves in here through the grass, and it actually continues. So maybe that their mound is somewhere along here. I'm going to walk. I want to see what's caused the slowdown in traffic over here. Oh, I think, you see, it's not a double lane system on either way. Something has gone on over here. Loads and loads and loads of ants all gathering over here. It doesn't look like they're feeding on anything. I can't see. Oh, there's a couple that are carrying little white things. I wonder if they're not moving some eggs around, perhaps. Not all of them do, but just a couple of them. There's no little entrances to go down into the ground along here. And of course, here's another one of those pirate flies. Let's see if it's going to catch anything. Have you got it? Come on, show us what you can do. Now, my favorite is to actually watch them eat termites, just because the termites are a little bit bigger. And I don't know what part of the ant they're eating, but I've never seen a pirate fly eat an entire ant or termite. It's almost like they just eat their heads and then leave the rest, which is a little bit scary. Now remember, this is a live safari. This is happening right now in South Africa in the Sabi Sand Game Reserve. So hashtag Safari Live with any of your questions if you do have any, or if you'd like to know anything about these ants. But the fly seems to be taking a break now. Perhaps it's already indulged in a buffet from the early hours of the morning. Oh no, oh wow, got one. Now it's eating one, but it's very rudely turned away. And look at that, do you see how it sort of flies up? I wonder if it does it to try and disorientate the ant. I'm sure the ant will maybe bite back. Wow. Well, there's a whole lot of them. And as we sit here and we see these ants are moving quite a bit, Red Fire Queen was wondering how far can they travel away from their nest. There's a couple, I think there's a few soldiers coming in, and oh, there we go. Actually trying to attack the pirate flies. You see that was an evasive maneuver that just happened over there. It went through this little soldier and actually I think tried to bite it. Remember, ants have got very powerful mandibles, and I think it tried to bite the fly's leg, and it worked. It chased it away. See, look at the disruption that has been caused now because of that fly. So sorry about that. Let me get back to that question. I don't know how far they can travel away from their mounds. It's typically quite a distance. I mean, you've just seen now. And they sometimes spend most of the day out foraging too, and I'm sure they can go probably up to 1 kilometer, maybe a couple of 100 meters away from their mounds. But the further away they go, it's obviously quite dangerous. Now, I'm wondering how long it's going to take for these ants that we're sitting watching over here to sort of stop panicking. As you can clearly see that they're not happy at the moment. Before they eventually get back into line, they're slowly starting to move back over. The fly again. He's coming back in. It hasn't learnt its lesson. Let's see if it's going to snatch anyone up. It seems to also want to get an ant that's in the middle of all the commotion. All the... There we go. Look, oh, did you see that again? That was incredible. So those are the...
We're on the same fly.
Oh, we're not on the same fly.
Which one are you?
Oh, he's flown away. It was the one that has caused all of this distress over here.
Yeah, I'm on the one a little bit more in front of you.
Oh, over there.
Yeah.
The quiet fly. Okay, we're watching two different flies. The one that I have has caused huge distraction over here. The ants are very unhappy and they keep attacking it. That one's quite lucky. That one's hasn't quite caused too much disruption, but that may change. It's just grooming itself at the moment keeping itself nice and clean. It's actually quite amazing how even the small insects like flies still take a part of their day to keep themselves nice and clean using those back legs now. That's incredible. Now come on, snatch up some flies. Oh, there comes the second one. Got one? That is incredible. They're now ganging up. A couple of soldiers again, veering off the pathway to try and chase them away. I think we're going to move on from these ants now. We'll go see what else we can find, and I wish them well on their journey. But let's go back across to James and see what toys he's going to play with next.
Going to play with any toys. What I want you to quickly do is just look at the beautiful sunrise beginning over there. It's not the most beautiful sunrise just yet, but the light it is casting on the wilderness right now is very stunning indeed. Unfortunately, very little activity seems to be occurring at the tent just yet. I was hoping for some birds and some antelope and that sort of thing. We haven't managed to have that just yet, so we have got a pretty sky to show you. And of course, when in doubt, one should always look at some lichens under the microscope. Good. Come back this way, everybody. Lichens, of course, a wonderful symbiosis between algae and fungi. I've told you that a few times before, but I think they look quite nice under the microscope. I see the zoomy is now being very artistic on a piece of wood. Now, I'm assuming that's because there's a bird there, so keep an eye on the damn cam there. Now, listen, let's see if a bird doesn't arrive. Isn't that nice? I think these things are just beyond fascinating. They are a sort of touch, I suppose, of the ancient history of life, and in some way represent how we, as, well, not human beings, but as multicellular organisms, became what we are. Of course, because this is a fungus and an algae that have combined to form one organism, which is exactly how our cells became cells. So you know that your cells, of course, are made up of a number of different organelles. There's the nucleus, there's the mitochondria, there are the ribosomes, there are a few other things in there that I can't remember offhand, and they all used to be free-living organisms. Bless you, Senzor just had a sneezing fit. He's okay, don't worry. And as I said, what was I saying there? Yes, oh yes. So they all lived on their own. Then eventually they became enclosed in a membrane, and that became the first sort of unicellular organism, like an amoeba. And somehow that process, although not exactly the same, has been repeated here, where the algae and the fungi are working together for the mutual benefit to the extent that they have become one organism, which I think is rather special. Just go along here now. Let's have another look there. Oh, okay. We're going to go back across to Byron now. Apparently he has managed to find, once again, the largest land mammal in the world.
Have indeed, James. We've got a herd of elephant that have just moved through this area. I'm trying to see if there aren't more. There was a big bull at the back there that's just disappeared behind those trees. It's amazing how quickly they can disappear. Let's just have a look and see if there aren't a few others around here. Unfortunately, those ones have moved off now. Let's see if we can't find some others. So look at that again with the sunrise now. Now we can't even see the sunrise yet, but look at the mist still in front of us. Beautiful. Isn't that lovely? Very, very nice. Now let's just see if there aren't a few other elephant around here. Maybe some stragglers from the herd. There we go. Look at that. There we go. One of the youngsters. There might be some others hidden through there. That's one of the younger elephant in this herd. Sound of the Franklin calling. I can hear one or two more in the background there. Can hear the branches breaking, so there are a few elephant around. My favorite. Not bad to see some elephant around here. My last morning for a while. A friend of mine was telling me, she sent me pictures. She was in Botswana and she saw about 300 plus elephant in one area yesterday. That is just fascinating, amazing. A lot of you keep asking what's the most amount of elephant I've seen. The most I've seen is between probably 80 and about 110, and that was also in Botswana. But yeah, she was in an area and she saw about 300 plus 350 elephant, roughly. That's amazing. Imagine seeing that many elephants spread across an area. John, no, this elephant isn't alone. This elephant is part of the herd. There are some, we saw those others pass through behind us, and then there's one or two more in there, John, in the thicket. We just can't see them, but I can hear them breaking branches. So there are other elephant around here. This young elephant would not be by itself just yet. See if I can go forward, if we can see some of the others. Let's just have a look. Let me just look here quickly around the corner. There we go. You can just see through the mist. Look, there's another one or two through there. Look at that. They almost disappear in this mist. That's beautiful. Now, from this lovely view, Tayla has got a lovely view of the sunrise.
We do, and because we're on bushwalk, we're able to bring you very interesting angles. And of course, the one that Sebastian has framed up beautifully for you has got some hare's tail as a silhouette, as well as some bottle brush grass. There's loads and loads of different things out here. It is beautiful. So take as many screenshots as you can, put them in your sunrise album. Who knows when I may call upon you to make another collage. Remember, hashtag Safari Live if it is good enough. Or if you think it's good enough, of course, to share. But isn't that beautiful? Lovely golden light this morning. And I think as we head into winter, the sunrises are just going to get better and better as the cooler it gets and creates more and more mist. And I'm definitely excited. I'm a little bit jealous of Byron this morning, watching my favorite animal move through the mist. But imagine what it will be like one morning. You're out and about, can barely see anything in front of you. And then you'll see a big cat coming out of the mist. That is my thing that I'm looking forward to next. Sebastian, do you know what I've just realized? Have a look behind us. We can't see anything. There's so much mist out this way. I thought that this side was beautiful, but on the over sort of back down towards the west, look at that. Normally we can see all the trees on the other side of the drainage line from Rebecca. It just looks like nothing. It's just white. It is so beautiful. Couple of crowned lapwings flying past there. As you know, they love to move around here on the open plains. That's where they live, of course, but that's incredible. Now, you can't see anything, and I'm glad we're not walking down there this morning and through that drainage line, because it would be very, very easy to bump into an animal without even knowing that it was there. Now, the reason why these crowned lapwings are also flying around like hooligans and making a big racket is because we've disturbed them. We didn't go walking through the grass. I don't particularly like to walk over there, just because every single day throughout the entire day they walk a big circle. So they must have nesting sites. This is probably their favorite area. And if I were to go there, I'd probably find myself in a bit of trouble. But they're nervous, so when birds are nervous, of course, some of them will run away. However, they do a combination of both. What they did was they just took to the air, did a little sort of survey around the area, making sure there's no other threats. And now they've landed down, they've stopped calling, so they have settled. So I think, well, in that case, we better keep moving then. I don't want them to panic again. It's never nice to disturb them. And also, my head hurts a little bit when I hear that call too early. It's almost like the hardy-dars. Something we haven't seen too many of is hardy-dars. We'll have to try and find some over the course of the next few days. So we've got a little bit behind because we keep getting distracted by all the amazing small things out in the bush this morning, but we're still on our sort of target of trying to aim towards getting to Philemon's cut line and see if we can pick up any tracks from there. But as I walk through here, let's see if we can figure out which creatures were roaming around here last night. Now straight away, if you just look down on the ground, you'll see that there are loads of footprints. Very, very easy to tell which ones these are because it's the most common antelope that we see around here. Those are all impala tracks. There's also a couple of thick-knee footprints, not thick-knee, lapwing tracks just over here from the ones we've seen coming and moving around, and then we'll try and find some coarser, bronze-wing coarser tracks too. But we might have to move a little bit further away from here. This ground is actually not the best. It's okay for now. It'd actually be great if something walked over this ground right now because it's crusty, it's a little bit damp, it's starting to dry, so if anything steps on it you'll actually see, you can see how nicely as I pushed my fingers down into the ground, look how clearly that shows the track. And you can see that this one was from last night, this little bird track, just because it's got a layer of water in the middle of the toes, so that's happened as everything has started to cool down. Well, that's good, so that's how we'll be able to tell how fresh the tracks are this morning, and hopefully we'll find those leopard tracks. And Sebastian, you didn't say what time that leopard was calling.
It was early, it was around 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock in the evening, okay.
And then Ellies said she's heard also sawing before she went to bed, so probably around 9:30, 10 o'clock.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's exciting. So Alice said she also thought she heard soaring a bit later on in the evening. So the tracks that we should find should look very similar to those lapwing tracks with a little bit of the sort of crust over the top. And hopefully we'll figure out where this leopard is going. But we need to go and find those tracks, of course, before we can make any assumptions. But let's go across to James. He's still in the tent. He hasn't gone anywhere, but I'm sure he's walking around and looking for the little things.
Yes, hello everybody. I have been walking around and now I just thought I would try and make myself look like I was a contemplative sort of academic writing with my pen on my very hipster notebook. Very nice. Good. This, of course, is Pogonothera squarosa, the herringbone grass. Not particularly interesting in and of itself, but of course, it is a home. As are most things out here, homes for various creatures. This one is a spider's home, and this spider, which I shall now try and show you without shaking too much. Not yet, hang on a second. Let's just try and focus in on this spider. There it is, I'm finding it now. Come on, man, I've just seen you. I've just seen the spider in here, everybody. And yet now I cannot find... There it is. Let's look now. And all you can see there are the beautiful, beautiful hanging bits of dew, which I think is rather stunning, and then underneath that, protected by the sort of, I suppose, intricate lattice work of silk, which has kept the water off its back. You can see the hairs of the resident spider here. Now, what this resident spider has been after, I don't really know, or what it's going to do during the day, I'm not sure. But I suspect what its general purpose is, or general modus operandi is to wait for ants to come scuttling up to the top of the stalk here, and then it will grab them. And I just think that, you know, if you go out in the day, on a misty morning like this, what happens is all of these little spider webs will catch the mist as it blows over them. And suddenly you realize that you're surrounded by thousands and thousands and thousands of spiders. And of course, most people would be utterly terrified by the thought that there are more spiders around them than there are people in many respects. But most of them completely harmless to us. And most of them, like this one, were it not for the mist, would be completely invisible. Now I wonder if we might trouble Alice to take us across to the dam cam, where Azumi is doing an extremely good job of following the white-faced whistling ducks. And there they are. And this group of parents originally started, I think, with 12 or 13 little ducklings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't think she's managed to maintain all of them. She and he, of course, they are multi-parents. They're very good at raising their children in an equal home. Unfortunately, this home has not managed to be safe enough for all of them. And I suspect 1 or 2, when they were probably slightly smaller, or even this size, have fallen prey to that giant monitor lizard that walks between twin dams and this, the Vuyatela Dam. So how many have we got there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just 6 left. 50% return. No, 7. Just under a 50% return. So that's probably not too bad if you're a white-faced whistling duck. Of course, if you're a human being, that would be a very poor return. That's why they have so many youngsters, of course, because the travails of trying to raise duck in this particular environment, well, very difficult indeed. Very many travails they must... does one pass over a travail, experience a travail? Anyway, there are many of them. So another one that's just come in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, same one. And we also had a fish eagle here yesterday. They too will eat little ducklings. And these ducklings, when they were very small, they used to hide under the water. So as soon as a threat came past, which included us, they would duck under the water and just stick their little beaks up. So all you would see was a little beak sticking up out of the water, allowing them to breathe. It was a rather clever way of staying out of trouble. And I've often thought to myself, as you look at a family like this, you think of the trauma that families go through in the human world when there is a loss, either to a parent, but especially to a child. Obviously, there is no greater loss that a human being can experience. And yet it happens out here all the time, and one cannot help but wonder, is there a sense of bereavement like there would be for a human being? Does there some sense of it for the birds? Well, you know, if you're going to hatch 12 or 14 eggs, well, probably less than 10% of them are going to make it through to adulthood. And likewise, an impala, when they give birth, 50% of those little lambs will be killed during the course of a year. And I often wonder, do they feel a sense of bereavement? And often they will watch their youngsters being killed. And because they do not have expressive faces, they don't have voices that are able to give vent to any sense of emotion that they might be feeling, we just don't know. We're unable to tell if they feel a sense of sadness, bereavement. And I often wonder whether they do or not. And certainly if those of you who've got dogs and cats, which I think are most people who watch this show, certainly you know that they have emotion, you know that they feel sad and depressed, so I don't suppose it'd be any different for an impala. For a duck, I don't know. Now, Stanley, you're wondering, how do I know that this is a single family of ducks? Well, Stanley, you can see the two parents, they've got their white faces. The others are all immature, they don't have white faces yet. We know that they're a single family because we've watched them from when they were very, very tiny. They used to live down about 5 kilometers away from here in the twin dams. That's where they were born. Tiny little things that they were. And it's very unlikely that young immatures that were not from the same clutch would come together like this with two parents. So while I would hesitate to put my head on a block to say this, I'm 99.99% sure that this is one clutch of eggs that has hatched to these two rather magnificent white-faced whistling ducks here. Now, Anna, you want to know at what age these ducklings will fledge. Anna, I'm not sure exactly. I'll check for you right now, though. They have sort of fledged already. In that, well, what is the exact definition of fledge? They fly, so they can already fly. They've been flying for some time. I'll tell you right now when they're going to leave home and become independent, which I think is what you were asking. Nana, you're probably right. That's probably what fledging means. I've always just thought that it meant sort of fly. Right, here we go. Development and care of young ducklings. At 14 days, they dive for food. Oh, hang on a second. Let's go from the beginning. 85 days. Here we go. First flight is 85 days. So at 85 days, they'll have their first flight, which is quite impressive, really. No, 77 days, actually. So it's 2.5 months. They'll have their first flight. And then I suppose they will be fledging. It says fledging period 63 days. So, well, I mean, this thing reckons that once they've flown, then they are family group. Yeah, there we go. I've just read it. Sorry, I'm starting a bit confused. I'm just trying to read at the same time. So they will fly somewhere between 60 days and 80 days. And what this app says, and I think it's quite nice, is that they will remain in the family after they've fledged. So the fledging is the definition of them becoming independent feeders, so they're not being fed by the parents anymore, and they're then able to fly. So that's quite fun. And then, of course, what will happen is eventually they will drift apart from each other as they become sexually mature. Now, it's a lot brighter in some parts of the world, and one of those parts of the world, of course, is East Africa, where Brent Leo Smith has got a very large version of our most common antelope.
Good morning and welcome to Kenya and to the Masai Mara, more specifically to the Mara Triangle. My name is Brent Leo Smith. I have the very talented expert on camera with me today, and we've got Daniel making sure I don't get lost or do anything silly. Now, we found something quite special that I know a lot of our long-time viewers have been asking about. Are we going to see it in the Mara? The answer is yes. Without further ado, over my shoulder, now we have a pair of secretary birds on a nest. So this is very exciting. It's definitely something we can keep an eye on and see how that chick develops. We can't see whether there's a chick in it yet, but the fact that both adults are there could be an egg, there could be a chick, but this is definitely something we are going to keep an eye on over our time in the Masai Mara. Isn't that very, very exciting? Now, of course, this is ideal habitat for a secretary bird. Nice long grass, lots of snakes and lizards to trample, and they have a very varied diet and quite a big home range. Now, and they can have home ranges depending. I don't know about the Masai Mara. They probably have a much smaller home range in the Masai Mara than they do in the Greater Kruger. In the Greater Kruger, they can have up to 5,000 to 6,000 hectare home ranges, but of course, it isn't the most perfect ideal territory or habitat like they have here. So there we go. They're just waking up. They're probably going to head out foraging in the next little while, but I couldn't resist showing you the secretary birds on their nest. Isn't that so cool? Remember, use the hashtag #SafariLive if you've got any questions for us. It looks like they're doing a little bit of aloe grooming at the moment, so they do mate for life. So you can see that affection between the adults. It's very important that they maintain that affection, and it'll make for a strong pairing, and then normally a very good parenting pair. Isn't that just so cool? Now, I'm sorry, I'm just got to move around to get my bum down. Now, I think has one sat down, Eggs? Oh, it flew off, sorry, while I was turning around. So as I said, it's about the time of the day we're going to head out foraging. Lillian's wondering, are there seasonal migrants here? Yes, and quite a few of the same seasonal migrants that you're going to see at Djuma. So the cuckoos have left Djuma, but they are here at the moment. We can hear red-chested classes and Deirdre's cuckoo all around. So we do have seasonal migrants. There's also quite a few seasonal migrants that we're not going to see at Djuma, and that only come as far to this as to come to this massive grassland, and we will be keeping our eye out for those as we meander through. So today is quite an exciting day. We're exploring areas we haven't been to before, testing our signal and stuff like that. So if you don't see too much of us today, we do apologize, but we need to get it all figured out before this weekend. Isn't that just... Oh, Now, eggs, if you go directly above the secretary bird and slightly to the right, there's a couple of dots that look like rocks. Some of them are rocks. Two of them are buffalo. Can you see them? There we go. So you can see there's some ravines and thickets up along the escarpment, and the buffalo bulls tend to, or quite a lot of buffalo bulls tend to really like that area. Now, there's also a pride of lions that live in this area called the Sausage Pride. The Sausage Pride, that sounds like a funny name for a pride of lions, but it's because they like to sleep under sausage trees. And, well, we've got our local expert with us. So, Daniel, how many lions in the Sausage Pride, more or less?
There are 3 females.
So, 3 females?
Yeah, they have 5 cubs.
And 5 cubs. So, while we are going through this area that we haven't really explored yet, we will be keeping an eye out for the Sausage Pride. Now, this area, not too many people come to it this time of the year because the grass is very high, but you know, we've always got a bit of luck, don't we, Eggs? So we're going to hope we're lucky today. Sometimes it's better to be lucky rather than good. Okay, so we're going to start meandering on again and see what else we can find, but that secretary bird nest is a really nice find. And let me just do a quick scan along the escarpment with my binoculars. See if there isn't a lion lying under a rock or under one of those balanites trees. Or, as we've seen in this area, even up in the tree. Now, there's a couple of interesting species that we're going to be looking for in this area that we haven't seen and I don't think have ever been seen on the live drives. And one of them is a boha reedbuck, which occur in the long grass and obviously quite hard to spot at the moment, but we will be doing our best to try spot them. And also in certain parts we might see oribi, so lots of cool things to look forward to. But unfortunately only those 2 buffaloes and the secretary bird sitting in that spot. Oh, Chris is wondering, what is the water supply for this area? Well, Chris, it's actually quite fascinating. So in South Africa, we only have 1 rainy season. Here you have 2 rainy seasons. You have the small rains and the big rains. And a lot of the water, and this is what we would probably call an inundated area. So in the middle of the big rains, or if it's rained recently, there's no ways we could drive here. We'd be stuck for days. So this side of the Masai Mara, up against this beautiful massive escarpment, gets more rain. So there's a lot of little streams and seeps that come out of the escarpment and eventually flow down into a big swampy area that's behind us, which is part of the Mara River floodplain. And also, of course, there's the Mara River, but there are lots of seasonal pans and swamps and seeps that are all natural. So you don't have any dams and like you do in other parts of... Oh, what's that? Sorry. In other parts of Africa, where my binoculars gone? Something just moved. Oh, whatever it was disappeared into the grass. I think it was a topi that I just saw go past. But, yeah, so Chris, lots of rain and rainwater, so lots of seasonal swamps. And, of course, the lifeblood of this area is the Mara River itself. So the river, as it meanders through, up in the northern area, we've got the forests, but the area we're going to this morning, hopefully we will have signal there, is a lot more open, and the grasslands come right up to the edge of the Mara River. Now, we've been talking about grass, and let's go across to Tayla, who's someone who's walking through grass at the moment on bushwalk.
Not only were we walking through grass, but we've actually found evidence of something that eats it. And of course, there have been many buffalo bulls around. And what we're looking at the moment is a perfect jacuzzi for an animal. You can see how they've shaped it quite nicely now. We've got an entrance you have the plunge pool on the right first, so they go in and have a dip perhaps over there, mud treatment, and then they come and relax here in, well, this little jacuzzi where they can have naps and all that type of thing. And of course, mud wallows are very important out here in the bush. They form natural pans, and from a natural pan comes much life. Frogs, insects will utilize them, and I can actually see there's quite a few boatmen in here. We'll have to try and catch a couple again so James can look at them under the microscope. But if you look very, very carefully, and I'll show you some more buffalo signs in a minute. Let me see if I can point them out. But just on the edge, you can see them skimming across the water. Can you spot them there, Sebastian? Well, they are really cool. These are big boatmen too. I'm not going to go over there because firstly I'm going to get stuck in the mud, though that might provide some entertainment and some laughs for all of you. But they're skimming across the surface of the water looking for all sorts of delicious things to eat. Now, excuse me. Excuse me. Goodness gracious. How beautiful is that? Look at the tension on the water. That is amazing. Now I'm trying to actually sneak in the shot over here. I'm trying to see exactly what it's doing. Oh, there comes another one into frame. That's so cool. It's almost like they're ice skating on top of the water. Now, I don't know if they were perhaps also looking after themselves, making sure that their little legs are all nice and clean. Oh my gosh, that is so cool. And you've got a reflection. I can just see the little legs moving around. They've actually got quite large antennae. Are those antennae? It looks like it, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very interesting to see a boatman from this view. Is it a little boatman or is it a water strider? Could be a water strider. Sorry, I can't really see what I'm looking at. I'm going to go around. I'm chasing them now, though, and I'm going to try and not get stuck in the mud. They might actually be little water striders. Let me see if I can see. Stop moving around. They keep moving away from me, and I think I made a mistake there. I think they are little water striders, and boatmen I think swim more. But there were a couple of them moving through here too. There's a lot of little unidentified insects in this mud wallow. And unfortunately, they're not going to be here for too much longer. They're going to have to find somewhere else to move because this pan is drying up very, 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 very quickly. Let's see if there's any life in the other pan. There's so much to look at over here. Let's see if I can find something else. Oh, there's lots of little spiders around here, and they'll be catching all of those insects.
You have something?
No, hey?
You have something?
They're really small, Sebastian. I don't think we're going to be able to see them, and they're quite frightened of me. Let's have a quick look. There's normally big water spiders here, fishing spiders, catching things. We've just got to look through all of this weed that's growing here. This is also quite interesting. I haven't seen it before. Alice, please may I have that question again? Oh wow, look at the roots. Look at this. Now, MJ, you're wondering which season is best to find frogs? Rainy season. So in our summer, anywhere from about, I would say, October right through to about February. March is a good time. And I'm sure the frogs actually would have enjoyed having this plant that's growing all over these mud wallows because it would have been a nice spot for them to sit on. We haven't had much of it. These little snails. They are too. Look at that underside of that leaf. Do they look like little snails to you, Sebastian? They are tiny. They're smaller than the size of a pinhead. They're really, really small, and I'm sure you'll get a lot of different types of freshwater snails out here. Now, it's not the bilharzia snail, the schistomiasis. That is microscopic. You can't see that. So that's a form of another snail, and it will be feeding on this lush plant. Again, I'm not sure which type of weed this is growing over here, but it is completely taking over the dam. Luckily, when the buffalo, the rhinos, the elephants, and all the different animals come through, they do chop it up and break it. But I wonder, is if you have a look over here, you can actually see some roots. I wonder if it's not resilient enough that even if it does get chopped off, you can actually see the roots are still here, so it might still be able to grow. Right, let me pop this back in the water. Bye-bye, in you go. Now, I didn't quite hear what Byron has, but we're going to go across to him. He seems to be having a lot of luck with the animals today.
Well, I don't have anything just yet, Tayla, but I have come across tracks of a pride of lions, and I'm very excited. I'm just trying to work out which direction they are going. They seem to be heading up and down there, right on our eastern boundary, almost the Cheetah cut line boundary. And let me just jump off here quickly. Stick with us. So what's happened is these lions have clearly been moving around during the course of the evening. I found where they actually lay down and rested on the road. But so we've got tracks over here. Now I wonder if these lions, you know what I think's happened is I think they've come, they really have covered a lot of ground in this area because there are tracks all over here, but their tracks are heading in that direction, but then I think they moved south and I think they may have cut back around again. But they do look like tracks of females with youngsters. There's smaller tracks here too, so I'm quite excited. I'm going to try and see if we can't find these lions for you. But like I said, they've moved up and down these roads quite a lot. And I think with these young lions, they've been playing, chasing the lionesses. So to actually gauge a direction isn't that easy at the moment. And also what's happened is I have seen some little Steenbok tracks on top of one or two of the lion tracks and Franklin tracks. So that would have been early this morning. So I think these lions moved around last night. So hopefully they haven't moved off the property. Alright, I'm going to try work out where these tracks are going. Let's head back to Tayla, who's found something interesting in a mud wallow.
We have indeed. Just as we sort of sent you off to Byron, we spotted this amazing track in the mud and we couldn't work out what had created it. And then Sebastian pointed out what it was. It is a water scorpion. It looked like a piece of bark sitting on the bottom of the mud. And that's incredible. I don't know when I last saw a water scorpion, but you do see them if you look hard enough. But as you can see, they blend in very, very well. With the bottom, it is covered with mud at the moment. And they're not related to scorpions at all. They just look fairly similar because of those front legs. And Saveria Sumi, you were actually wondering if I could find one. Well, here we go. This is just for you, and it is absolutely beautiful. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I'm just trying to remember what family they're in. Nepidae. Oh, I remember I was reading about this not so long ago, just the other day, in fact. And so it's like I said, it's a specific family just for them. There's nothing else that is almost anywhere like it. It's quite alien-like. And in here we've already seen little boatmen, we've seen the water striders, and there's a couple of other little insects moving around here, and that's what this little fellow will be eating, is all the invertebrates that live around here. Occasionally fish, so I'm sure they'd eat tadpoles too, but that is very cool. He is. Look how slowly he's going. And I think it's important when you live in water like this to not move around too quickly, especially when you're that size, because a bird could come and swoop down and will come and get you. Look at it. That is amazing. Now, I really want to catch this thing, and I think we're going to have to come and visit back here a little bit later, because I think we need to have a closer look at this guy under the microscope, and I'm sure James is jumping for joy in his tent. Okay, he's moving, he's going backwards, using those legs. Now, it can't be too easy to move around in this mud. I think even a little insect would sink into it. And that's incredible that it's moving backwards. I didn't know that. I thought that predominantly they'd be moving forward, and I think it's just maybe turning itself around at the moment. Now, Sean, you're wondering if these little guys are part of the crayfish family. I don't think so. I'm not sure. I think that these guys are completely separate. These are more like an insect rather than a crustacean. And like I said, I actually don't know too much about the water scorpions, but perhaps James can have a little look on the interweb, or perhaps in one of his books, as to what family this guy belongs to. I think it starts with an N, if I'm not mistaken, Nepidae or something along those lines, but I could be butchering the word, of course. But look at it. Look at those little legs. So it's only got 1, 2, 3 legs by the look of it. What are you doing? He's kicking with its back legs now. And of course it's like almost like a whip scorpion. You can see it's got that very, very long strand in the end, like a little tail. Now, Zena, you're wondering if water scorpions have stingers. No, I think that you'd be able to pick this up and you wouldn't get harmed by it. They do have those sort of front, I don't know if you could call them pedipalps or what you would call the front ones. You can see that they've got it forward that resemble the claws of an actual scorpion. So I think that that's what they're using to capture their prey with. So I don't think that they have a stinger at all. That long sort of strand at the back, maybe that's used for breeding, perhaps laying eggs, but that I don't think would hurt you at all. Look at it, it's coming out of the water now. That is absolutely incredible. And the trail that it leaves behind almost resembles that of a millipede, don't you think? Oh my goodness, we need to remember this. This is going to be a lot of fun, I think, to come back and visit it. And wouldn't it be great now if it would show us how it's able to capture its prey? I'm sure it uses an ambush technique where it will sit and lie and wait in the mud and hope that something comes towards it, where it will then snatch it and then devour it. That's amazing. I can't take my eyes off of it. See how it's flattened itself completely now? Now it blends in really well. It blends in just to its track. And I wonder if they don't do what crabs do and sort of shimmy themselves further into the sand so that they put sort of debris over their backs. It looks like it has done something along those lines before. It's got a sort of a thin layer of silt covering its body. But that's incredible. So it's sitting still now, and I think it's moving from spot to spot, hoping to catch something. Now, Gail, you're wondering if they lay eggs. I'm most certainly sure that they do lay eggs, and I'm sure that they will lay probably quite a few at a time. I'm actually, like I said, I'm not too familiar with water scorpions. I'm going to have to go back and do quite a bit of research. I have not seen a water scorpion in years. I can't even tell you when the last time that I saw one. It could have even been well before I was a trained guide. It's not something that you get to see every day. Oh, there we go. Look, it's burying itself now. See how it is? It's shifting itself into that mud. It is nice and soft. And then it uses its legs as well to push the mud towards it. And now it's completely disappearing. Look at that. Only its little tail sticking out. So that's the most amazing technique. Sitting there, waiting, hoping that a little insect, a little boatman, a little fish, a little something is going to come towards it and come close enough that it will be able to grab it. Well, that was fantastic. That's definitely the highlight of my walk so far. James has now found one of his favorite insects, and that is a shield bug.
This is one of my favorite insects. This particular insect is a very stinky one. It is a shield bug, aka stink bug. And this one is currently now trying to run away from you because it doesn't like being on television. It's very nervous. Let me just turn it round slightly. And while I do that, I must just say that I don't know how Tayla managed to resist the temptation on her second to last segment of talking in a French accent when speaking of those snails, and mentioning, of course, the fact that Sebastian is very French. I would have had to do that entire segment in a very bad French accent, and I would have talked about escargot quite a lot, which I think was very, very good of Tayla to resist the temptation to do that. Anyway, there is this shield bug. And I will make an attempt to find out a little bit more about water scorpions a bit later. I don't think they're related to crayfish. Crayfish, of course, are crustaceans, which are, I think they're crustaceans, are they? Yes. And they'd be much more closely related to crabs and that sort of thing. I think a water scorpion, if I'm not mistaken, is an arachnid, but I'll go and find out for you. Isn't that quite pretty? Suddenly the mist is lifting. It's going to be another glorious winter's day here, or late autumn day. And then there's something here as well. Now, World of Stacy, you say, do I prefer the tent over the Jeep? No, I don't necessarily. I like the change. I like to do both. The only reason I'm not on a vehicle this morning is because the vehicles are broken, and so I would have been on a vehicle. It's very nice to go out and explore. It's very nice to go and try and find some big animals, but at the same time it's very nice to come in here every so often and look at the much smaller things. And the reason we have been spending so much time in the tent of late, of course, is because we're practicing for the TV shows come the weekend. So I'll probably be in the tent every afternoon, but I'm not supposed to be here in the morning. It's just because we've had a vehicle breakdown that I'm here this morning. But luckily, nature is delivering, and there is a tiny little grasshopper there. Can you see it there, Senzo? Tiny little fellow waiting to warm up in the sun and trying to avoid the stinky shield bug that is still wandering around on Catanaregum spinosa. That's this tree. It is the spiny bone apple. And just now the dawn chorus is starting to fade slowly, and we're getting this wonderful sense of the, what shall we say? I nearly call them the underclass. I suppose the insects are sort of the underclass of the of the biological world, they're all starting to sort of wake up now. So the birds started early on with the first light. They, of course, don't have to worry, but like us, about the cold. They are insulated and they're warm. They began the morning with a whole sort of orchestral oratorio, if you like. And now as the mist has lifted and the heat is starting to build, it's not going to be hot, it's going to be a beautiful day. So the insects are starting to come out and warm up a little bit, and the reptiles will do the same as the birds go into the shade and sort of settle down for the day. It's a really nice sort of change of how things are happening over here. Now, Byron finally seems to be on the tracks of those things that we don't see here anymore.
Now, I'm looking desperately to try and find these lions, everyone. Now, hold on a second. Let's just have a quick look here. Now, there have been a few vehicles driving around this area already, which is not good for us because sometimes they drive over the tracks. Now, I'm just trying to work out where these lions have gone, where they've come from. It looks like lioness tracks over here. Clear lion tracks over here. Oh dear. Now, this becomes tricky. So I've tried to get one of the other guys in the area to come and give us a hand to try to find out exactly where these lion tracks have gone, or where these lions have gone, not the tracks. But they've headed all the way. This is very confusing. So I'll tell you why it's confusing, is because I've checked about 4 different roads now, and there are lion tracks on all of them. So this pride was very active here during the course of the night. But now to find out exactly which direction they went is proving to be quite difficult, because what's happened is they seem to have been walking up and down. This is a cut line, a prominent cut line. They seem to have been walking up and down here. And then they've crossed into Djuma territory and walked up and down a few roads. Now, there's definitely lionesses and youngsters. I can see the smaller tracks. It must be the cubs of, I'm not sure which pride. I don't want to assume I know the pride yet. It could potentially be the Styx pride on this side. Maybe. I'm not sure. We haven't had any sign of the Unkuhuma pride for a while, but I'm not sure. I'm not going to say which pride I think it is just yet. And I just hope they are still on our side. Now, I wonder... Hold on a second. Go ahead. I'm on Cheetah cut line at the moment. Yeah, Rex, and their tracks on... So I'm Cheetah cut line Mamba Junction, and their tracks down here too. I'm just trying to work out exactly the last tracks, the last direction. They've definitely been moving through this entire area during the course of the evening. Copy. I'm going to head south towards Gowrie Cutline. Sorry, towards Gowrie Main. I'm going to check Gowrie Main. Yeah, okay, so Rexon has just told me the tracks that he sees, he thinks that it is the Styx Pride, so I think I'm right there. As I said, I haven't seen signs of the Unkuhuma Pride. Yeah, affirm Rex, I think so too. So that would make more sense, and then it gives us an idea, because of their territory, that I think we should be checking a little bit further south and not further north. Hopefully, let's hope our thinking is on the right track. So Liz, you asked, do lions use these roads all the time? So the thing is, Liz, these roads are basically just big prominent pathways for these lions. It makes it much easier for them to move around. It makes it much easier for them to move around and cover their territory. See, the track's heading that way. Oh. I'm hoping they headed up into this area, moved around, and then headed back south again. That's That would be our best bet or best chance of finding them. So let's, as I was saying, they just use the tracks regularly to try and or basically cover their territory. Okay, sorry, Alice, could you just please repeat that question from Tormented Zombie Owl? Can you copy that, Craig? Can you watch as the crew habits? Sorry, I'm just trying to hear what Alice is. Oh, okay. Tormented Zombie Owl, you wanted to know if the cooler weather has affected the movements of animals and cats, and is that why we haven't seen many? I don't think so. I think, if anything, the cooler weather would cause the cats to move around a lot more. The bush is just very, very thick at the moment, and I think with all the rutting, the male impala rutting is probably causing animals to move through thickets, maybe a bit easier for them to hunt, and if they hunt and kill something in there, it's very difficult to find them. I don't know. I don't know. I've got my theories, but I could be wrong. These animals are around here. I just think it takes time. It's difficult for us to stop and then go and try and track for an hour, because I can't be off the vehicle for that long. So it is difficult, and we do need someone to come and try and help track in this area. It should help us then to find these animals. I mean, I can only check the roads around here as best I can and work out a direction of where I think they've gone. But it is difficult if you're by yourself checking an entire area. Anyway, I'm going to work this area a little bit more, see if we can find these lions. Let's head back to James in the tent.
Out of the tent this time, everybody, and we're looking at a spider that has built itself a little web here in the glorious morning light. And it's quite difficult to see, actually, on account of the fairly violent sun now shining through it. While you enjoy the sight of what I think, well, I mean, bark spiders are supposed to be doing this sort of thing at night. But it looks like a little bark spider to me, and she's building frantically, and she's on the path that brings us to the tent. And so we just need to be a little bit careful of damaging her. She's very small, about a centimetre long, and just watch how she builds. I think this is the most beautiful thing to see. And what I wanted to say to you while we wait here is that the water scorpion is completely unrelated to any other kind of scorpion. It is not, in fact, anything other than a bug. It is a bug that lives in the water. So, not related in any shape, way or form to a crustacean. Not related in any shape, way or form to any arachnid either. Isn't that special? That is definitely a bark spider. I'm just looking at it through my own camera lens because it's difficult to see any detail from where I'm sitting. And I don't know why she stopped building. I do know why she stopped building. She stopped building because I knocked the web. Now I'm just going to go around the other side, which is going to take me about 7 days because I don't want to knock the web again. Hello. I'll actually see her. Oh, there she is. Now let's see if she starts building again. We're going to have to, of course, render this, or certainly ban this area from any kind of movement, because anyone coming along here is going to walk straight through her web. It's definitely a bark spider. Now normally bark spiders, as I say, are nocturnal, and they normally build their webs on at night. Okay, let's head across to Tayla. Apparently she's got a piece of a sort of more herbaceous nature to show you.
We do. So at the moment, and I think Byron's shown it to you and I've shown it to you too, we've been seeing a lot of this partially chewed grass being spat out by the hippopotamus. And here we have a very, very good part of it. Now, if any of you were watching the sunset safari yesterday, we had a good opportunity to look straight down a hippo's throat. And we were able to see their teeth and how many they have, and they're all pointing in different directions. So for something that's actually got interesting teeth, don't you think they chew their food up relatively well? Look at that. Like I said, it's not been regurgitated, and the reason why I know that it hasn't been regurgitated, because if you look here, you can still see that part of the grass is intact. So it's been pulled up with those hard inner linings of the lip, pushed into the mouth, and then chewed, and it's created the circular motion. You can see how all the grass is twisted together, and then they've gone, I don't really like that too much, and spat it out. Now, I don't know why they seem to be doing it a lot more at this time of the year, because I haven't noticed this at all for a very, very long time. But now all of a sudden we're seeing it, and there's a whole lot more of it deposited up ahead. So it's quite interesting. I'm also going to have to see if there's anybody else that's got any other theories about why hippos do that. But that was perfect. Now, this seems to be a very popular spot for the hippos. Whenever we do night drives, I can almost guarantee that you will see a hippo here. Every single time that I've passed through here after dark, I have seen a hippo just moving around here. And the grazing is really good. The grass is nice and long, and it's lovely and lush along the drainage lines too. And well, if you're going to eat the nice grass around here, the grass has got to go somewhere. And if you look down below, you'll see all of the evidence. This is, of course, hippo dung. Now, some of it's not necessarily from the males. A lot of it doesn't look like it's been churned up. So I wonder if there were a group of females, or maybe a female and her offspring, moving through this area. That looks particularly fresh up over here. So maybe that could be from a boy. I can't see much of it being splashed around. And then there's another set of very fresh dung over here. You can see, all laid down nicely without the tail sort of wagging and spraying it. So it could have actually just been the girls that are around here. Maybe those two that we saw yesterday in Twin Dams, because we're not far away from there. So maybe those are two girls and not maybe two young boys. It's very hard to tell the difference when they're in the water and when they're young. When they're fully grown, it's a completely different story. Let's see if we can find the final piece to the puzzle in the form of a footprint. Actually, before we even get to the footprint, look at this. Beautiful rubbing post. Now, this actually looks quite fresh. Relatively fresh. Maybe from a day or two ago. It's been baking in the sand, but you can see that I can quite easily pull this mud off. Now, this could be from a number of different animals. Even a hippo would like a scratch every now and then. It could be from a buffalo. It could be from an elephant as it starts to get higher and higher up onto this variable bush willow. And lower down, could be from a warthog scratching. But I don't see any ticks stuck in here, but that's also very cool, and lots of fresh evidence of animals. And this is where, of course, we've got to be careful. Now let's complete it. Here's some nice soft sand down below. This should definitely give us a hippo track. Yes, lots and lots of hippo tracks. Actually, this is a nice fresh one. I think this one does it the best over here. Big hippo too. But I've seen tracks that are much larger than this, so I'm going to go with this being a female track, just purely by size. But again, it could be, of course, from a young male. Very difficult to tell the difference between male and female, not just in the water, but also by their footprints. So you sort of have to rely on size, I suppose. And there are two sets of tracks here, not just one. So quite possibly two girls or mother and offspring. Really, really nice. But they're the toes, the 4 toes. On the back of the foot, and if I put my foot in comparison with it, you'll see that my foot is actually a little bit bigger than that track. So it is not a particularly large hippopotamus track. They get a bit bigger than that. And if you saw the feet, we were very lucky yesterday with the hippopotamus. They opened their mouths so we could see, and then did a little roll over too, so that we could see how big their feet were. And that was a young boy, so he didn't have particularly monstrous feet, but big enough to do a bit of damage. Right, let's keep going through here. Now, because it's still nice and cool, we do have to be very careful, because they could still be out. Now, Chris, You would like to know why an animal would spit out of its food. Well, very much the same reason as to why you and I would spit out our food. Probably because it didn't taste very nice. So, and this is the thing I want to do research on. If there's anybody else that has come up with different theories other than the food not being particularly palatable, maybe it's got something to do with the change of season. I don't know. I've seen it with zebra before, where they've regurgitated grass balls that weren't digested, and apparently that had something to do with the different types of bacteria in the grasses and their stomachs not really being able to digest it. We used to see it in the Eastern Cape quite a bit. It almost looked exactly like zebra dung in tight balls, but it was just woven balls of grass. That was it. So different times of the year, I suppose animals' stomachs need different types of bacteria to help break down the foods that they're eating. And because the seasons out here are so drastic, winter and summer are very different, very arid in winter and very wet and lush in summer. Most certainly I think they'd need more bacteria that would be a lot harsher and probably a bit better at helping aid digestion. When winter, there's not as much food around. So maybe it's got something to do with that. There are potentially lots of other possibilities that it could be. Remember, out in the bush, a lot of the things that we do tell you about these animals are just from a couple of people. Not from a couple of people, but it's just observations of people. They've written them down. They've said, this is what I've seen this animal do 150 times in this area. But what that animal does in one particular spot might be very different, of course, from another area. I just think it's too much of a coincidence that all of a sudden the last few weeks we've been seeing a lot of this partially chewed grass and then big bulks of it sort of spat out. We'll go and see a bit later, or maybe some of you can find an article on the interweb if there's anything that's been sort of noted about that. Maybe James knows something about it. He's been in the industry for a very long time. There are many things that we still have not seen that are probably not even documented that the animals do, but that's what's so exciting, is that as we progress with technology, I always talk about this, we're going to start figuring out more things and weeding out the truth from the wives' tales. Byron's still hot on the heels of those lions. Who they are, I'm not sure. Maybe Byron's got a better idea.
Oh, we're trying to find out where these lions have gone, which direction. Still no. Sorry, I'm just listening. Sure. I hope so too, and I'm very confused because now one of the other guides said that they've seen leopard tracks in the area too. They're heading up and down the road here. Let's see, it's very difficult now. I wonder, one guy thinks, Rexon thinks he saw tracks of 3 leopards in the area now. I wonder if that's not potentially, he says 2 males and a female now. I wonder if it's, again, I don't want to speculate too much, but I wonder if it's not Tingana and young Hosana and young Shongile. Possibly, I don't know. I'm just trying to listen to the radio to see what they say. Let me just try to get hold of Rex. Rex, do you copy, Rex? What's your position info? Copy. Do you think do you have tracks of leopard in the area too? Okay, copy. Confirm that's further up near the central Cheetah cut line. Sure. All right. Well, it sounds like Rexon thinks that they were leopards chasing one another. So it's possibly Tingana chasing young male and maybe young female. I'm not sure. I'm going to try to work out what's going on around here. It's very confusing at the moment. Let's head back to James and see what he's up to.
I'm still looking at this bark spider whose story is not yet told, and I'm trying to find out exactly which one it is, and it looks to me like the anterior view of the common bark spider, Cherostrus sexcuspidata. That's quite a name. Let me say it again. Cherostrus sexcuspidata. Now, as I was saying a little bit earlier, they are supposed to be nocturnal. Now, what they do is, shall we try to go a bit closer, so it seems? I am still here, not just a discombobulated voice. And she stopped building now, and I think that's because she's ceased to be too confused. You get into a nice position for you, Sinzo. Now what she does normally is sit on the bark of a tree during the course of the day. Now, Ali, this dovetails quite nicely with your question. What she does, let me go on the other side again. What she does, you say, how does she manage to, such a tiny spider manage to spin a web across such a huge gap? Well, what she does is she sits on the bark, probably of the tree. Oh, she's going to start building again. This is fantastic. So of the tree to the left or the right-hand side, and she will leave a strand between the two trees, and that strand, in fact I can see it here, that strand will remain upright and extended all the time. So that is a permanent strand. I don't know if you can see that at all, Senzo? It's just there. So that remains all the time. And because I am short of stature, and in fact most of the people that come to the tent would not hit this thing. We've probably walked under her web or her strand countless times. Now she'll then, so Ali, what she does is, in order to set that up, and she would have had to replace it a few times, is that she sits on the bark of this tree and then she just lets the silk out from her spinnerets, and that will float out on the wind and eventually attach itself to another piece of vegetation somewhere, hopefully a little bit higher up, and in this case that's what's happened. Then she'll make that tight, come out onto this sort of, I forget exactly what line it's called, there's a specific name for it, and then she will start to build the web that she's doing now. But normally that happens at night time, and normally what happens is that at this time of the day she'd be eating it. She'd eat up the entire mass of the silk that she's built here, including all of the support structures and support structs, and then the silk of the orb web itself, and then she'd climb back along her main strand up into the tree, where she'd hide against the bark for the whole day. Now she seems to be slightly confused. Now the reason I think that she is this spectacularly named Cherostrus sexcuspidata is because she's got two little horns on her back. And it says, Cherostrus can be easily identified by four tiny blunt horn-like projections on the carapace. I just want to see if there aren't any... It's called a bridge line, by the way. The main line that I was talking about is called a bridge line. Here we go. Cherostrus sexcuspidata is partly diurnal in forested areas. Well, we're not in a forested areas, but certainly that certainly is Cherostrus sexcuspidata, and this is definitely the day. So perhaps this particular one thinks that she is in a forest. But look at her building there. It's just wonderful. Well, that's interesting, dear Watch. You asked quite a nice question there. You say, is the fact that we're nearing full moon perhaps having an effect on when they are active, these spiders? So because nighttime looks like daytime, a little bit under the full moon and clear skies, maybe they become less strictly nocturnal and diurnal during the full moon. Yeah, I think that's entirely possible. Why not? I'm just surprised I've never seen her before here. And it's because I suspect she probably builds her web normally during the night, and by the time the day comes along, of course, she will have eaten it up. So when I come wandering under here in the afternoons, I wouldn't have seen her. And I think they're quite long-lived, if I'm not mistaken, as well. It doesn't say in this particular book. What a beautiful spider she is. Let me just read that name again. I can't remember it. It's too spectacular. Caerostrus sexcuspidata. Caerostrus, spelt Caerostris. Caerostrus sexcuspidata. SEX, obviously. CUSPIDATA. Caerostrus sexcuspidata. What a marvellous thing you are. It's interesting, I don't think it's the neatest bark spider's web I've ever seen. And I don't know if she isn't slightly confused. Well, Dan, you say one of your favourite spiders is the rainbow jumping spider. Well, I don't think I've ever seen a rainbow jumping spider. I imagine my favourite